Hey everyone, it's morning here, and I was looking at a lot of your poems this morning, and I was really struck by the candidness and brilliance of them as you all were going through and expressing yourselves emotionally and thinking about it. And I got a vision from it that we use our poetry to help document this time, and I'd like to create an anthology of our poems as a class that we can publish and put into, hopefully, into a book or bound form that lets us just chronicle our time thinking about this as we have time. And poetry takes time. I think we look at poetry as being quick writing, and it's not. It takes a lot of time and repetition and revision. It's just more focused, and it's over the minutia of individual words and where is it placed and how, where are we putting it. If you look at my poem above, you're going to see things that, do I want the empty here or do I want to pull it back? And just playing with words and where they're placed and how they're placed. Do I want more spaces here, where it's put? Or I see this emptiness. How do I want to revise it? It's just going through and taking that time and playing with things. That's really where poetry lives. We're going to do something today. I noticed in our poems that we were really we were a bit we were really emotional. We were hitting some of the raw emotions of things and doing these broad swaths, which is kind of where that letter went, right? That letter that we wrote was over a full week of information and emotion. And so our poem is then that boiling down of that full week of information and emotion. And I think of poetry a little bit like I think of poetry a lot like carving marble. And great sculptors, they have a block of marble and they have this huge thing of marble, weighs multiple hundreds, if not thousands of pounds. And they slowly and surely whittle away at it to create the image that you see. I think poetry is the same way. Sometimes it helps to have this big block of writing that we can slowly and surely chip away into the very most important things that give us this really intense, rich image. And I really want poetry to be something like that. So if we're thinking of poetry as poets, sculptors, that means that we need to create a block of writing to chip away. Now, this is an important thing. So, if we're going to think about that block of writing to chip away, we're going to need to do a lot of writing. So, a couple things I wanted you to think about today. In our moment, thinking about this time, I want you to have some pondering with it, but we also have time to live in the moment. And I don't think any other poet does it better than Billy Collins. Billy Collins is a wonderful poet who's always living in the moment. And I submitted one of his poems, Cheerios, to you guys. And I want you guys to read Cheerios. And on a Padlet I created, I'm going to have you kind of to weigh some of the things that you notice he does as in the moment writers. And then I have another poem that I want to read for you. And I'm going to use this one kind of as a little bit of a guide to our mentor text of how Billy Collins approach everyday things. How does Billy Collins approach everyday things? That's the big question I want you guys to think about, because here's what Billy Collins does. This is going to be on a Google Doc I'm going to submit, but it's kind of coming from a website. It's how Billy Collins writes a poem. It comes from, actually, that anthology in our classroom I can't get to right now, by Kwame Alexander. This is Marjorie Wentworth. It says, and I encourage you to read this as you play this. It says, when you first wake up, notice how your mother's voice calling you to breakfast sounds like a fire alarm. Watch the steam rising off your oatmeal like tiny clouds, and guess where it goes? Pay attention to the smallest things: a fly buzzing near the kitchen window, bright rocks in the driveway, the handful of marbles in your pocket, the sound they make when you walk. Imagine that the leaves springing in the wind on the walk to school are alien ships, and that barking dogs belong to a prince. At night, when the stars seem close, reach up and grab some. Our lives are made from these things, and when you describe them, you discover magic. It's the way your pen becomes a wand in your hand, and this may be the only thing you need to know. This is celebrating Billy Collins. So I want you guys to think here, how does Billy Collins approach everyday things? And then we're going to do some long writing. I noticed Billy Collins likes to take the normal and make it abnormal or extraordinary and uses these big similes. So I'm going to sit here at my kitchen counter and I'm going to look around at everything that's around me. And I'm not going to show you it because I want to try to paint that picture. But I'm going to use this time. Long writing is meant to write the most detailed sensory images we can. And it's not small things. This is a big paragraph of writing. I'm going to show you what this looks like and how you might go about it. So I'm looking around and I'm going to focus on all of my senses. And the first thing I'm going to focus on is sound. All right. So I did some typing. I did it silently. And you guys can see an example of this again in my writer's notebook that I've shared with you. I wrote, the hum of the refrigerator is gently cutting through the silence of the early morning. It is amazing how much I can hear something so clearly that otherwise is so ignored. The kitchen counter reflects dull beams of light emanating or reflecting or shooting out from the ceiling. An unwashed coffee mug sits alone, isolated in the corner of the counter, waiting for someone to pay it attention. The smell of fresh coffee, slowly aging, wafts through the door. And I think of today. Do I have what I need? Will we be secure? What will my friends need as they drive in from Arizona to a home that will be their only refuge for weeks? I think about these questions as I watch the dull reflection of a dirty coffee mug on the refrigerator door. And I will probably go much longer with this. And you might see some elements of that as I kind of continue writing. And you can see kind of at the end, especially with those questions, um, you'll notice from that poem Cheerios, I think you'll see a little bit of inspiration from that as I was thinking through it. But remember, take the mundane, let's pull it out. I might add in some crazy similes, like maybe in here about the coffee mug, waiting to pay someone attention. Um, like a lone cow in a field. Slowly chewing the grass. Because Billy Collins likes to throw in these weird similes that seem like they have nothing to do with anything to create that sensory image. So maybe I'll try some stuff like that and just kind of see where it goes. And this is the thing, you're just building a block of a really dense sensory image that you can pull from. Because if you don't have any marble to chip away, you can't create a sculpture. So today, again, you're kind of thinking to do today, your thinking work. When you just think, how does Billy Collins approach everyday things? And we'll look at his poem Cheerios, and we look at that poem of how to write a Billy Collins poem. And I want you guys to look and answer that. How does Billy Collins kind of approach everyday things? What do you things do you notice? And you can just list as many as you want. Just list them, and we'll put that on a Padlet, right? And then with the long writing, I want you to go into your writer's notebook. I want you to do a long writing and just really evoke as much sensory image as you can. Look at the smallest details in everything around you and just take a second to bring it in, create similes, create metaphors, and just describe it. And you guys notice that I didn't describe every single detail of my kitchen counter, but I described like a weird thing about my kitchen counter that I thought was interesting. And I'm looking at that coffee mug sitting across from me that I need to wash. It doesn't matter that my counter is black and white granite or that there's a pen in between. I focus on that coffee mug and what it desired as a thing. So keep those things in mind. I can't wait to read your writings. I've been loving your poems, and I can't wait to begin to continue to chronicle our thoughts and feelings during this historic time in our lives. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'll talk to you guys later today. Bye.